A PopularSpeed.com PopCast.
Richard Petty, Bobby Allison. Jimmy was tied with him for most wins at Dover. Now the record is his alone. Jimmy Johnson dominates the Monster Mile and wins the third race in the chase.
Will Jimmy Johnson take the Dover momentum to Kansas? Hello, everyone. I'm Scoop Richards for PopularSpeed.com with my co-host, Dennis Neal of Fox Sports Net and Kentucky Speedway. Jimmy Johnson wins the AAA 400, led 243 laps, his 8th win at the Monster Mile, in the record books now. Jimmy and Chad turning it on, and our points now, Jimmy has leapt past Kyle Busch, is behind Matt Kenseth by 8 points. Kyle is 12 points back. We got these three in particular, I think, that are really going to fight it out for this Sprint Cup championship.
Well, I agree with that. And, we've talked all along through the year about Jimmy Johnson and Chad. They're just too good to not do what they're doing. Simple as that. And what's coming up for those guys is their kind of tracks they like to race at, mile-and-a-half locals. You got Kansas, you got Charlotte, you got Texas coming up, and then Jimmy's pretty darn good on their restrictor tracks, too, like Talladega. So, these guys are making the run for it. It's almost like the NCAA basketball tournament where the teams peak at the right times. You always have those teams at the top. Every year seem to be the same guys, same college teams every year. The same with these guys. Chad and Jimmy didn't win 5 championships in a row because they were slackers. It's a good race this year. It's a good one. Kyle Busch is finally living up to his potential as far as being in the chase. Every time he's been in it recently, it's been kind of a mess. But he's been right there running with his teammate Matt Kenseth. And what a shot in the arm for Joe Gibbs Racing with Matt Kenseth coming in there. Man, this guy's set the whole organization on fire. I think we see the Matt Kenseth of old. He's got, 7 wins now? That's amazing.
Yeah, he's won 4 of the 7 races on tri-oval tracks this year. Won the race at Kansas in April, Matt did.
Right.
He's your points leader.
He was on the pole, too, in April.
Kyle Busch has had 3 consecutive top 5 finishes. Not happy with his car at Dover. It was loose. But he gains 2 points on Matt Kenseth, despite being left over in the points by Jimmy Johnson. So Kyle, 12 points back, consistently good. This is not the Kyle we've got in the chase the last couple of years.
And I think we can possibly say right now, these are the 3 most talented drivers in NASCAR this year, as far as what they've done on the track, what they've been able to do. Of course, Jimmy is always the guy that everybody's trying to chase down to beat, but Matt has really been huge this year. And Kyle lost his mojo, like we talked about a couple of years ago, when he got penalized, had to sit out, could not run trucks in Nationwide. When they finally let him start running that again, he got his mojo back. And I think he needs to be able to drive as much as he can. And not only Kyle has had a good year, this year, Matt Kenseth had an unbelievable year so far. But those 3 guys right now, like I said earlier, probably the most dominant drivers this year, the best drivers this year. I think Kyle, Jimmy Johnson, and Matt Kenseth, the guys to beat. Matt's having a phenomenal year. Jimmy's always having phenomenal years. And I think these guys are the cream that's rising to the top right now. Get to Talladega, and the whole thing get blown out of the water. But, we'll see what happens.
Well, let's look at this chase. We've talked about, making up these points and what it means and what it takes to make up these big margins of points. Like when you see Jeff Gordon and Kevin Harvick both 39 points back. They're the ones right behind Matt, Jimmy, and Kyle. That's a lot of points to overcome.
It's almost a whole race, basically, and the way the points are stacked up, you get 1 point per position. It has to be a catastrophic failure on one of those guys up front. Blowing a motor early, getting wrecked early.
For all 3 of them.
What.
All 3 of them have a catastrophic failure up front.
Exactly. And then these guys have to go and win the races that they're in and or finish in the top 2 or 3 or 4 to be able to leapfrog and get those points back. That's what's neat about this point system. You almost get a mulligan now, but it's gotten so bad that these guys are so consistent up front, you really don't have a mulligan anymore. When the chase first started, you might have 1 race you could do bad. But these guys up front, Kyle, Jimmy, Matt Kenseth, they're so good every single week. You know that they're going to be up in the top 4 or 5, if not win the races. And that's what makes it hard to overcome their points. The consistency of being up front the whole time. It's going to be kind of cool.
Carl Edwards, who predicted a championship win, he went from 4th to 11th in the points. And what a disastrous day for Carl at Dover.
Yeah, they weren't running good on top of it, and then they broke a hub and had to come in, I think, a 15, 20 laps, something like that. They were down, and that's the thing about the pressure of the chase. Everything has to be perfect. The mechanics of the cars, the driver, the crew, the pit stops, everything that goes in those cars had to be absolutely perfect to maybe have a chance at winning the race. If you got 4, 5, 10 guys that have basically perfect cars, coming down to the driver and the crew chief who gets the best setup in the car. And, Carl's not been consistently good this year. Or again, these other 3 guys, they've been the guys that beat all year.
Well, let's preview Kansas, Dennis. Tell us about the track. Tell us who you expect to do well there. I'm going to go, not with Jimmy this week, but I'm going to go with Matt Kenseth.
That's a good pick. I'm going to go with Matt, too. He's won the last 2 races there. He's been very, very fast all year this year. He's consistently been going fast. They've had their little problems, pit road, getting out a little bit later than other people, just, how it does on pit road, but he ends up winding his way to the front. And I think Matt Kenseth, is a good guy. He won last year. He started 12th. He ended up winning the race. I think it was kind of a caution race because it only had 115 mile an hour average speed, and then the April race this year was like 133 miles an hour average speed. So I think maybe last October there was a lot more going on than there was this April. So we'll see what happens. The track is a mile and a half. It's a D-shaped oval. It's about 12 years old. I think it was built in 1990 or somewhere in there, about 1999. It's a good track. It gets a little boring, like a lot of mile-and-a-half tracks do, and the guys get strung out. I think it's just going to be a Jimmy Johnson, Matt Kenseth, Kyle Busch kind of track. Those guys love the miles and a half. The track record this year, Matt Kenseth, 191 miles an hour. It's going to be a very, very fast track, and I think that they repaved it a couple years ago and made it really, really fast. And we're going to see a good competitive race, but I think it's going to be Matt and Jimmy and Kyle, those guys up front again.
2 worked good for us in practice. And believe me, I wanted to see 4 tires lined up in the 4th or 5th row. When they lined up right behind me, I thought I was going to have my hands full. And I really did. Junior drove a whale of a race, and the track position really gave me the advantage I needed to hold him off. We were able to get the Scobeltsville Chevrolet in victory lane. So, all these teams are great. And when you put the 18 and 20 up there, it's going to make it a very difficult deal. And I think it's going to be fun for the fans to watch. And we came to a good track, and we got what we needed to done.
A PopularSpeed.com PopCast.